Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Huell's Gold. I'm Chris.
And I'm Allan.
Yeah, we forgot to tell you who we were on that first episode, the episode 0, because as we said in that, we're not experts on Huell, and we're definitely not experts in podcasting.
It definitely was not on the list.
No, we had our list of everything we needed to say. Forgot to tell you who we were, but now you know. I guess we can just get started, because we want to get rolling in this episode. It's a fun one. It's the first episode, as we explained. Not exactly
Not technically,
yeah.
Probably not the first one, but logistically it'll be easier if we just
Yes.
call this the first one.
Episode 201, Fort Ross, California's Gold. This is the first time that we saw Huell Hauser as far as the host of California's Gold. He had been in other things, which...
Well, what are some other things?
Well, the other thing, he was on TV in Tennessee. He was on TV in New York. He moved to L.A. In the 80s, and he was still on PBS, on KCET. He was one of the hosts of Video Log. And I think that's where a lot of people in L.A. first saw him. But he got California's Gold. He financed it himself. He got it going. He hired Luis Fuerte, who, if you haven't read his book, Louis, take a look at this, My Time with Huell Hauser, which I have read. Allan has not.
I have not.
But it's sitting right here.
List.
He's got my copy. He's going to read it tonight. All night.
All night. Stayed up all night to read it.
Yep. But this is how the show started. At least this is what we're saying. We know this episode, it actually aired on
May 6th.
May 6th of 1991.
Yeah.
But the premiere episode, which will be 207, that aired January 10th, I believe. It was it was definitely in early January. And again, too complicated to get into. So we're just sticking with the episode numbers here. And here we go. Let's hear how Huell started this one.
At first glance, it looked like a page out of an old Russian history book. There were muskets firing, soldiers on horseback, and people dressed in colorful, authentic clothing from the early 1800s. But this is not just a page from Russia's past. It's a little-known page from California's past as well. You see, back in 1812, the Russian government was interested in expanding its trade and its empire. So they sailed down from Alaska and constructed a fort on the northern coast of California. The fort was in full operation from 1812 to 1841. And even though there were never over 40 or 50 Russians there at any one time, the Russian flag actually flew over our state for over 30 years.
Okay, so on the first segment, we see Huell start out at Fort Ross. My favorite part of this, by far, is the California Gold logo being shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, and it looks different. It doesn't look like it used to back in the day, or not back in the day. This is way back in the day. How it looked in future episodes where it was just kind of there. It wouldn't be so animated.
Do things.
Yeah, it's still that orange color, and there's the orangey yellow, golden outline of California that shows us geographically where we are.
You get a dot where you're going to be.
Yeah.
For that segment.
That's been going on since day one, but that animation, that was fun.
Yeah, and definitely a quotable moment for Huell is calling this segment. He refers to what he's doing at this Living History Day as a history feast.
He does.
Which that's my favorite.
Do you think he was saying, like, he thought fest was feast? Or was it just like... Because, you know, it is a feast for the historian. I mean, there's all these people, like, dressed up.
Yeah. Do you think... Did he write his own intros? And
I'm not sure. I believe that... I want to believe so, but I can't be for sure. But I think that they touch on it in the Golden State of Mind documentary on him, which I want to rewatch that. It's been a couple months, and they the production people who he worked with talked a lot about the duties that they had and he had and whatnot. But as far as Fort Ross, this episode, it was timely, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So it happened. Let's see. It would have taken place on July 28th, 1990. And we just pulled that information from the Fort Ross
Conservancy newsletter.
Yeah. So this is the 9th annual Fort Ross Living History Day.
And that was 1990, so it started in the 80s?
It had to have, yeah.
Okay.
Doing the math on that. So what's interesting about this, and Huell makes reference to, or he's in conversation with a person, is he talks about how the Cold War had just ended.
Yeah,
so
that's what I was thinking, like during the 80s.
Wall falling. Yeah, this had to really be within a year of that happening. Probably closer to 7 months, 8 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it's interesting.
It's crazy that there would be a fest or feast, whichever it was, that was celebrating Russian culture that existed on U.S. soil. Fort Ross, I guess we could kind of explain that. Huell did a little bit, but Fort Ross was just a Russian fort.
It was to establish a fur trade.
Yeah.
To explore the area. I think he talks about it a little bit in the intro. I don't know about you, but I think Huell looks pretty good in his Russian garb.
Oh, what is it? It's like a puffy shirt.
It's a puffy shirt with a gold vest.
Well, he's already gotten the theme of the show, the golden vest. Did you note, like, his microphone isn't the microphone that he would have that he would be known to have. That wireless mic with the big foam thing on it, the little pop shield.
Pop shield, yeah. That's
but
right.
this mic is just silver. It looks like he's announcing a boxing match or something. But it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. It looks
no,
like
it doesn't have as much authority.
No.
He puts it in someone's face. He doesn't. Oh, I'm sorry, I brought that away from my face. When he puts it in someone's face, it doesn't have the same oomph. But
no.
You know what? He was getting started. This was the first few episodes, so.
Yeah, this was still a gamble.
Which in his interviewing technique, I think you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Observation about that.
The interview technique that he had, that he became known for, this kind of really close talking and asking pretty simple questions and then repeating people's answers. So this and then that, and just kind of talking to a person in a very roundabout way, like getting the answers he's wanting and then emphasizing it with his own little twist on it. He didn't do that so much. He's kind of just like putting the microphone.
He's letting it hang there for a bit. Asking
a question, and then there's some pregnant pauses at times for sure. These people are having a good time. Like
a really good time.
Yeah, and I don't think they fully understand what he's doing there. Because this isn't Huell Hauser, the celebrity that people would get excited and run up to in later episodes. Mm-hmm. This is just some strange guy who was also wearing a puffy shirt and a gold vest and having fun at the history feast.
Yeah, so what I thought, one of my favorite parts of this segment also, do you notice how fast the people they're faking the Russian accents, how fast they let those, they dwindle very quickly.
Yeah. He seems to be having a good time talking to these people. I mean, he's super smiley, and he buys into the whole thing, to an extent. He buys into it, but he's still asking people so you're not really Russian, right? And just I don't know if he fully understood how much people were going to be in character when he shows up there.
Yeah.
But it looked pretty fun. And does this still go on?
The festival?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yearly. This is a thing to do. Another thing that's I think, historical significance, or at least it's relatively interesting. Did you notice the camera that had USSR plastered on the side of it? And he mentioned they were from Soviet TV, which is sort of interesting because this, not long after this was aired, I think it was in December, Soviet or Moscow TV ended up being, what do you want to say, disbanded, or it ended up being dissolved. I think maybe is the technical phrase for that. But to me, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I've never seen, well, first of all, the camera's giant, which is already funny. And then you have USSR plastered on the side of it. Yeah.
I'm also wondering because Huell would do a Moscow special pretty soon after this. I don't remember the exact dates, but he did a whole special where he went to Russia for a week. And if you follow our Instagram, I watched the whole thing a couple weeks ago, and I posted a video of Huell in Moscow at the record store, which they were playing this great kind of industrial sounding music with this guy working out, and then this like kind of tough looking Russian guy, and they ask him what he likes, and he just says, "I like disco music." And it's so off because for one, it's like 91. Disco's not exactly popping off in the U.S.
No, there's definitely a lag there.
I mean, we should put it in perspective. This is, 1991. This is grunge. This is Nirvana. Stuff like that. I mean, probably what is most popular going on in music at that time. But then he goes to Russia. Not that Huell's exactly like I wouldn't call him the hippest of dudes.
He had his own style. Definitely. Yeah. But no, not hip.
Honestly, I can't even imagine what he would listen to music-wise. I don't think we'll ever know that.
John Denver?
Well, maybe. He's a city boy, though. He's not getting a Rocky Mountain High.
He may surprise you, though.
He may, yeah.
Let's think about this. What would Huell listen to?
Well, he's from not Nashville, but just Tennessee.
And he does have that provocative picture with Dolly Parton.
Yes, he does. Yeah. So, because in the 90s, he would have been in his, I would say, mid-40s at this time in his life. I mean, I don't want to call 40-year-olds unhip by any means, but I don't think that people in the early 90s who were in their 40s were listening to Nirvana.
Right.
So
I think that's fair.
Well, let's think about when he was, like, say, in high school. That would have been in the 60s. Who knows? Maybe Huell was into psychedelic rock?
Maybe.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, let's go
I mean,
with
he's a clean-cut guy. He was a Marine. So I don't know how many Marines were listening to 50-Foot Hose and stuff like that. But
I'm getting a Selena vibe, but...
Really? Wow. Okay. All right.
It could be just me projecting.
Well, that was of the time too. I don't know if she had like broken into the English language market yet.
Do you think he would care?
Well, I guess not.
Why not?
He was a desert guy. Where was she from? She was from.
Oh boy, she was
from Texas.
Yep.
I would say Palm Springs and Texas, like the Corpus Christi area. That's got a similar vibe.
You know, why not?
Yeah. Huell likes Selena. You heard it first. Don't quote us on that.
No, it's silly. All right. And
So-
what did you just say there?
He came right in and just interrupts the USSR television guy mid segment.
No, he just barged on in. Classic Huell.
Yeah, the barge in. That's definitely a good Huell technique as far as television goes.
Just assertive.
So this Fort Ross segment, it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of people in a small area that he gets to go around and talk to. There's a lot of food being eaten, which as you watch the show, you start to see that Huell loves food. And that's another thing I read in Louis' book is that Huell would often like have dinner and drinks with people from the show after taping or before or whatnot. And always like he said that Huell was a steak man. He liked a good steak. And there's no steak here. I mean, they had other things.
Piroshkis.
Yeah, that was your favorite line in that in this segment here.
So in the second segment, what's Huell doing? Is he going on a field trip?
Well, pretty much, yeah. Let's hear what he has to say.
Continuing our adventure on the foggy Northern California coast, we board a ship that is itself part of our proud nautical past. Welcome aboard our state's official tall ship, the Californian. Now, this ship was built in 1984 as an authentic wooden replica of the 1849 revenue cutter Lawrence, which operated along the California coast during the gold rush period. Vessels like this one were the forerunners of today's modern Coast Guard cutters. These days, it cruises up and down the coast to promote history and coastal awareness. It also serves as a floating classroom for senior high school and college students during 11-day cruises on the open sea. We were invited to join up with a group of students from 15 different high schools in Sonoma County for the last couple of days of their cruise.
Yeah, so this ship, it definitely looks like something back from the day, but it was built in 84, he said.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess you could call this a field trip. This is a pretty interesting thing that, well, at first we thought this was just something that these Northern California kids were getting to do, right?
He did say high school from Sonoma County, so I thought
Multiple
maybe they have
high
their
schools, yeah.
Oh, multiple high schools.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe they do have their own ship.
Yeah. It's not the most destitute area of the state. So
No, I mean just compared to what my options were, I got to go paint a car. Those are my options. I didn't, going on a cruise.
and
but
we had Camp Keep, which was fun, but
that's how many kids were on the boat?
I'd like to know that. But the thing is, there's a lot of information on this boat nowadays because it still exists. It's still functioning the same way. I don't know if it's USS Constitution or Californian. I don't think that's what it's called, but it is officially the state's tall ship. Whatever that exactly means, that's what it is. And Huell mentions that it's the official tall ship of California. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor, he wrote that into law. I don't know if it's a law necessarily, but it's official, as per Governor Schwarzenegger, that it is the official tall ship. And it still functions as a floating classroom all over the state. And it's based out of San Diego now. It may have been then, but it definitely is now. And I found out that, because we ain't in high school no more, but if you're not either, you can still do this boat learning fun field trip thing. You have to pay for it, but it's the same thing that you see these kids doing, which, I don't know, depending on your point of view, may be cool, maybe not, but I want to do it.
Yeah, and doesn't Huell make the way he describes these students, he doesn't use the term high school.
No. Maybe this is something that people in, the South say. He calls them senior high students. And I started thinking like, okay, well, this junior high, so senior high. And I kind of remember hearing people say that, but it's not a California term.
I've never heard that.
That I know of, yeah.
That's funny.
So these senior high students are having a good time. There's some characters in here.
There is definitely a relationship I'm not sure of.
Yeah.
And that's Huell's just asking one of the students, what is it like to be on the ship? And he gives, he's just giving you some details about it. And this person next to him slaps him on the chest.
Yeah.
Gives it old pointer finger.
He's tagging himself in.
He tagged himself in.
And the other kid, he just stops cold.
Oh, the look on his face.
He's
said,
defeated.
Man, he's defeated. He's embarrassed, and he's on camera. Like, he knows this is being documented. Yeah, I don't know. That relationship was sort of interesting. Was he a bully? Is he a catcher? Is he
He did have the well, I mean, he had a baseball hat on, but a lot of them do.
Yeah.
But he certainly had that kind of like tough guy feel.
Like stocky, tough guy kind of thing. But anyway, what I thought was the most entertaining about the interaction is he added absolutely nothing to the conversation.
No.
Just tagged himself in.
It's almost as if they were reading from the same script, and he just decided, no, I'm talking now.
Oh, man.
Huell doesn't seem to bat an eyelash at it, too. He's just
he just keeps that
over.
smile and just shifts his eyes over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Huell's got a pretty good look here. It's got this yellow Land's End jacket. At first I thought like, oh, he's kind of got this like fish stick man kind of costume on, but it's not. Like this is like sailing attire for kind of well-to-do Sonoma High School students too. Mm-hmm. He's looking good. That's one thing I think Huell did well is present himself well in these early days as far as dressing. He may not have been the hippest musically, which who knows? He could have been busting out some Selena.
That's all conjecture.
Yeah. But with the clothes, it was always on point.
That's all conjectural.
But they don't last on this boat for long. They head back into the dock and they are checking out the old boathouse. And then we get to the real reason that he's in this new location, which we find out is in the Point Reyes area.
Have you been?
I have not. You have?
I have. I had a friend that used to work on a farm in Point Reyes. I think it was Inverness, which is
it's right near there,
pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went to Point Reyes, and I actually have this Point Reyes dollar, I believe it is. It costs the exchange rate is 3-to-1, so it costs $3 for one.
So they
Point
have
Reyes.
their own currency there?
Yeah, it's a community currency. Well, I haven't been back in a few years, so I don't know if it's still accepted. But at least there's these community currencies go around to try to keep money in the community. I definitely have it, and it's definitely become discolored. So it's not made of the highest quality, but the money stays in the community. So if that's important to you.
Unless you take it out and bring it up to Bakersfield
that's very true. But it's useless unless I'm back there.
Yeah. So Huell's up here to investigate one of California's biggest mysteries / historical events. Let's hear what he has to say about that.
Now, everyone agrees that wherever it was Drake landed, before he sailed off, as evidence of his discovery and conquest, he nailed a brass plate to a post somewhere on shore, declaring that the land belonged to England. Well, the plot thickened in 1936, when a young man chanced upon a partially buried brass plate sticking up out of the ground. Could this be the long-lost Drake's plate? A plate that, if authenticated, would prove that Drake really was here. Well, the plate was taken directly to Dr. Herbert Bolton, professor of history at Cal Berkeley, who looked at it and decided that it did indeed appear to be the original plate, and that, quote, one of the world's long-lost historical treasures apparently has been found, unquote.
I'm sort of bummed that I hadn't heard about this when I was up there. No, I've visited the lighthouse twice. One time, it was insanely gusty, and it was at night. It was a horrible idea. We were able to lay our bodies almost full weight forward and be held up.
Wow.
The second time was under nicer conditions, where we actually were able to take a tour of the lighthouse and have a ranger show us around. It was cool. I had no idea this was, a stone's throw away.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little jealous of this lighthouse talk. I have an odd soft spot for lighthouses, and I haven't been to this one. And there's plenty of lighthouses that Huell visits throughout the years on the show. And in fact, one of my favorite episodes, he visits a lighthouse, and he seems to have as much reverence for him as I do. And don't ask me why. I don't even get why I like lighthouses. It's just such a odd thing that needs to exist, and they're still in use today. Many are.
Yeah.
Is the Point Reyes lighthouse still functioning?
That is not functioning.
No,
anymore. No, it's more of a monument.
Well, a lot of them are now. There's even one nearest us, which is in Avila Beach, and it functioned as a lighthouse for many years and still does under, I think PG&E owns it now, and you can do tours of that way. But
yeah, the lighthouse is still in use.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so the lighthouse is still in use, but it was, they were automated.
Yeah,
I think
they don't need
this one
people
was
to live there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Although the ranger station is very, very close. I don't know what you call them, barracks, just apartments, whatever they are. Condos, very beachfront condo.
Mm-hmm.
So they are there.
So you went here and you didn't know anything about Drake's Bay, Drake's Plate, all this stuff?
I'm telling you, no. I just went, visited my friend. We went around downtown, which we got really good coffee, and I think there was buffalo milk ice cream.
Whoa.
I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
It's
well,
pretty
buffalo
wild.
milk makes really good mozzarella, so let's try some ice cream too.
That's true.
I'm down.
True. Yeah. It's so we did that, and I had no idea these were so close.
Yeah.
If I would have known, then it would have been a day trip.
So, as Huell explained, the brass plate that was left behind, supposedly by Francis Drake, proclaiming the land of California, which it wasn't called California yet, for Queen Elizabeth, that was supposedly found and then thought to be real. Turns out maybe it wasn't so real.
Yeah, that's kind of, we get to, is it a fake?
Yeah.
Is it real? Yeah, that's kind of.
Well, I was wondering, I wanted to do more research on this and see how this was found, because Huell kind of just throws it out there like, oh, it was found, but like, how could you find, like, as you go in the episode, Huell goes to the Bancroft Library, he goes to see the actual plate that was found. And it's small. It's maybe like, 8 inches by 5 inches or something. And it turns out that there was a wealthy man in the area who was hunting, and the person who was his driver found the plate, gave it to this wealthy hunter.
He gave him a flat tire?
I don't think so. I think he just saw it sticking out of the ground or something, and he gave it to the hunter. The hunter put it in the trunk of the car and then forgot about it. And then they drove back to wherever they were, somewhere else in the Northern California area, and he sees it in the trunk and he's like, oh, what's this? And he just throws it on the side of the road. And then later on, another person finds it, and it passes around and eventually ends up in the hands of the Bancroft Library, and it's considered at the time to be legitimate. They run.
Well, that was my first question was, it was verified by a professor. Did he just look at it?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, how do you...
And they weren't really testing it in the 30s as vigorously.
Right.
But even from that point on, it was considered somewhat unlikely, because I was reading in a 60s era California history book that I have that even then there was skepticism. And it wasn't until 1977 that, as Huell mentioned, that they were able to do this testing and figure out that the metallurgy just was too similar to current manufacturing techniques. Mm-hmm. And it showed like...
Was this a plant, you think? Do you think that?
That's what it seems to be.
Just seems...
No one knows who planted it necessarily. Was it the driver? Was it someone else who left it there to potentially be found as the fabled Drake's plate? I think it's fun.
Maybe it was just a prank to play on Berkeley's library.
It's a good one because the library, if you continue throughout the episode, you see that the library knows that it's a fake. They themselves did the testing and know that this brass plate is a hoax, but they keep it on display.
Yeah.
Because that's what's fun about history to me, is that even when you find out that, oh, this isn't what you thought it was, now it's part of the folklore and the story. And
so even though the plate was tested and it was found to not be from the era of Sir Francis Drake, the first evidence, or the first piece of evidence that the ranger gives, is how Francis Drake describes the area. And he describes the bay.
Yeah.
And to me, that seems, the historical evidence seems stronger than looking for a plate. Just like the Holy Grail of Sir Francis Drake.
Finding this major needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of... Because didn't he compare them to the cliffs of Dover? Isn't that what he was...
Yeah. I think so.
And there's not a lot of cliffs. I mean, there's plenty of cliffs on the California coast, but specifically like that.
Yeah.
I think it's good enough that Point Reyes and Drake's Bay, that whole area, could claim that is where Francis Drake was for a couple months to fix his ship.
And this might be an interesting thing as well. If anyone lives in the area and knows more about this and has some local lore, what the heck?
Yeah. Email us. huellsgold@gmail.com. We want to hear from you.
Yep.
You can direct message us on Instagram too, because we're going to be posting about this episode. You probably have seen it, and we'll see more posts from us soon. So after the library, Huell goes back and he's doing his kind of like closeout segment of the Point Reyes area, and he's talking to the ranger who was doing the original kind of tour of the area. And
this is the first glimpse into Huell and that classic hand on the knee, reach down and grab whatever's in front of him. He just as a prop.
Everything all the time, and most of the time without asking. A number of episodes when he's in like a church or a museum or something, he'll ask first, but still, he's a hands-on guy.
Yeah, he wants to.
Because what does he grab right on the beach there as he's walking during this?
I think it's just a rusted pipe.
It is, isn't it?
It's just like a rusted pipe, yeah.
And they're thinking, oh, is this part of Drake's ship and having a good time? And he's just yucking it up with the ranger on the beach. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't stop there. He's grabbing driftwood and yanking stuff around.
He's just having some fun.
Yeah.
Because who knows? That could have been
part
Francis
of Drake's
fort, right? Is that
that's
the
what
fort?
He says.
Oh, the fort, yeah.
And the ranger, as a forest ranger would be, just kind of, well, no, the wood wouldn't exist for...
Definitely not. Gives him the scientific reason why this could not be
exactly.
Francis Drake's fort, or a piece of it. So
as this episode winds up, we're seeing what would happen in a lot of these early episodes, which would be Huell or the production team would find local musicians who would perform what would become known as the California's Gold theme, which is California, Here I Come. And as you heard at the beginning of this episode, it's kind of a small brass band version of that song. And we're going to try and isolate those when we can to be the first thing you hear in these episodes, because we want you to hear the music that you'd hear in each episode, as long as it's specific, which it is for many, many episodes. And this one is done by the Nova Albion Brass, which I thought was a great name.
It's a fun play.
It is,
play
because
on words.
If you do your Francis Drake research, you know that on the brass plate, he proclaimed Nova Albion, which we know now as California, in the name of England. So the Nova Albion brass, like the brass plate, I love it. These old brass players, they knew what they were doing. But it's a good version.
Some of them.
It's definitely spot on. They're not really adding a lot to it, but
Right.
it's a solid rendition.
It's good stuff.
I like it.
So that's it.
That's it.
All 3 segments, just like that.
Not every episode's gonna have 3 segments. This was a dense episode.
Yeah, it's a lot of material. It's kind of back and forth,
Yeah,
but
I liked it. I like that he went to a bunch of different places throughout the state, but I do enjoy when he is in one place and kind of gets more into the detail of things.
yeah.
Because I think there's more in, as you just saying, in Point Reyes, you didn't even know that this stuff was happening, which is what makes Huell a positive.
Ambassador.
Yeah. There you go.
Huell is a hype man.
Yeah, like a booster.
He's a booster.
Yeah.
For smaller areas that don't get the same recognition as, say, the big cities. That's a cool thing.
Yeah. But this was a fun first episode, and we hope you liked it. We hope you go and watch it on Chapman University's website, which the link should be in the description.
All right, so next episode.
Next up is the Central Coast.
Central Coast. And are we gonna refer to that as 202?
Yeah, that is 202.
Well, should we label ours as 202?
I think I'm going to, because I want to make it really easy to put our episode with the episode. Yeah,
just to match it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening.
We hope you join us again on the next episode as we search for
Huell's Gold.